Okay, so good evening, ladies and gents, and welcome to the latest instalment of the CarpFix Live. As always, the main purpose of doing these lives is to interact with you, the member, answer your questions, whether it be about your own fishing, just general queries that you have, or about the content that we're creating. I'm going to start off before we get into the questions and just talk a little bit about our most recent releases, the two Dijon films, part 1 and part 2, with my good friend Derek Harrison. I'm sure you'll all agree the lake looked really, really beautiful, and for Derek to get off to that start, to catch, I think it's the biggest mirror in the lake, that 60-pounder that he caught. It's got quite a story. It used to be even bigger than that and live in another reservoir fairly close to that one. Was moved when they vindaged the other one, so it's got a bit of a story to tell, that fish. And what was quite funny as well, he caught it at the start of the session, and as I packed up, you didn't see on in the films, but at the very end of the session, somebody else caught it down the far end of the lake, and had to go and take the pictures for a French local, and then send them on once I'd got home. But I really I definitely struggled at the start. Obviously, a lot of the time when we go on these filming trips, go to venues that I've not fished before, and sometimes you hit the floor running. If you land straight on the right spot on the fish, etc., you can just be on a roll from the get go. But I got my head into thinking that I needed to be fishing tight to the back of these rocks, and I was basically fishing just over the marginal shelf behind these rocks, and I didn't actually catch a fish doing that apart from up by the dam end, and it took me a few days of I'd basically firing loads of bait out on dark, thinking that because it's a day only venue, the fish were going to come in, get on the bait, and then I was going to flick out in the morning, they'd be there waiting for me. And if I was fishing the nights, I wouldn't have been baiting up quite as heavily as I was. So I think, I got a bit overexcited. I knew there was a lot of fish in the lake, but I think I overbaited, fished the wrong spots for definitely the first 3 or 4 days, which was mainly what you'd have seen in part 1 of the Dijon film. But obviously, as I was sitting there, absorbing the information, watching Derek catch from out in the middle, it all started to sort of fall into place at the end. And you saw in part 2, really started to get amongst the fish. I think there's a fair few 50s in that lake. I know other people that have caught a lot of 50s from there. And for the amount of fish that I caught, I think I was pretty unlucky. The biggest one I caught was 42. But I can't remember how many fish in total we caught for the week, but it was a fair few without really obliterating it. But the sort of takeaways for me are those barrages that are effectively you're fishing on mud. Most of the lakes we fish in the UK are dug for gravel, dug for irrigation in clay, whereas these French barrages are quite often just basically flooded fields, and the bottom can be quite soft and much more like estate lakes, the sort of lakes that haven't been dug for gravel, etc. And I would say they're definitely, those sort of lakes are not my bread and butter. I wouldn't say I dislike them, but I grew up fishing gravel pits and irrigation lakes, so I always feel comfortable fishing those types of venue. Whereas on those types of venue, you're always looking for the harder spots. Or I tend to find myself looking for the harder spots on those types of venues. Whereas these like barrages and these French lakes, sometimes they've got a different sort of makeup, and the bottom's very soft and it leaves me feeling sort of unconfident. But Derek was catching, when I thought I saw Derek catching out in the middle, that he'd found like the oasis in the desert, this glory hole or hot spot, But when I had a little feel around of where he was fishing, it was pretty much like where I was catching, casting on my single hook baits and stuff. So it wasn't particularly hard out there, and I think I was reluctant in the early part to fish on soft bottom, and that definitely cost me fish. In the early part, if I'd have gone straight out into the middle, fished on the soft bottom and not worried about it, baited in the middle, I think I'd have had a better session. But when you're fishing new venues for the first time, you do what you think, and I was reasonably happy with what I caught. And the end product, the films, they come out really nice. The drone shots of the barrage, it was lovely, lush green. I think it was back end of September, that sort of time when we
one of the most picturesque lakes to probably film at. I would have said.
Yeah, it was small though. Most of these French reservoirs are huge, whereas this one was a lovely sort of.
You said it in the film. You said it was like an estate lake.
Yeah.
And it was. It is like it could pass for an English estate lake in Yorkshire.
Yeah. With 50s and 60 pounders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the only difference, rather than trout.
So yeah, had a really, really nice time there. Just recently had a really, really nice session. Actually, before I start talking about this, remember to get your questions in because Scott's going to be getting hold of these questions and we'll go through them in a minute. But I'm just giving people that are just logging on.
Nice tubs of bait to win.
Yeah, we've basically got a lot. Or how many is there? 4, 8, 12. Yeah, 12. We've got 12 tubs of handcraft pop-ups. They're all 12 million size. There's 4 pots of super squids. There's 4 pots of tutti fruities, and there's 4 pots of sting, I believe. They're only 12 million size, but they are very, very buoyant. Certainly buoyant enough for using size 4 hooks on chod rigs or hinge rigs. And unlike there's another brand out there that I won't mention the name of that makes really buoyant small baits that the water never seems to sort of get into and doesn't really sort of transmit. The water really gets into these, allowing the flavours to get out into the water. And they're incredible for the size. They're not the point. Like I've seen smaller pop-ups that are so buoyant that you need a stupid amount of putty on them that just makes the rig look ugly. These are buoyant enough for your heavy rigs. They take a nice minimal amount of putty, and they really are. They've actually handcraft have come on board on our discount scheme. So if you're looking for some spring pop-ups, then check them out on our website. Is the link on our website?
Yeah. So I get a lot of emails asking where the discount codes are. Basically, you need to make sure that you can receive the info at CarpFix.tv email because that's where we send them out to.
Okay.
We do. So the other thing is, I'm going to try and get it on here. But yeah, basically the best way is to make sure you can receive those emails, and I send them out. I usually send it out every week on like a Monday or a Tuesday if we can, just as like a refresher because with Johnson Ross we do the discount scheme in a certain way. Every week I update them with the list of the current members.
Yes. Once a week.
Yeah, because
there's obviously people dropping in there all the time.
And I need to keep them updated. If someone joins and want to buy a bivvy for £500,
they need to get on. They need to get in.
So we do it every week, so that there's always a quick kind of turnaround or whatever. But yeah, so the other way is on the app. This might not work because I don't think I've set it up. No, it's there. Yeah, so on the app, at the bottom of the app, for those of you who don't know, there's a little tab at the bottom where you can click on community, and this is where we'll post the updates for the discount codes, because this is a members only area. So if you're not a member, you won't see any of this stuff that's on here, basically. So one of the things that we're doing, as you can see, there's lots of catch pictures. So every month, if you put a picture on there, we will put you into a draw to win a £100 voucher for Johnson Ross. So we'll do that on a month by month basis. So the end of February, in March is CarpFix Live. We'll look back at some of those, some of our favourite looking captures, but ultimately we'll do a draw for everyone that's posted a picture. So I basically have a big spreadsheet like we do with the giveaways and just draw a name for the £100 voucher. Everyone also who enters goes into a bigger draw at the end of the year. So in a year's time, because we started it this month, so in February next year, we'll do a draw for a £200 voucher.
Okay.
But anyone, if you're not a member next year, you could still win. So
you still might get an email.
Yeah. So this is a nice area for you to post pictures. You can see like some people put regular pictures up. There was one here by Dan and Lexi who were fishing corcuts on embryo. They seem to get out quite a bit, but they, that you can see lakes that are fishing at the moment as well.
Yeah.
And it's I mean, this is a syndicate, but if there's day tickets, you could keep your eye on this at some point and get a little get a little tip off. Like I don't know if you put one on burners or not, but
I put a picture on for burners. Yeah.
So there's like I say, there's loads of pictures on there. Feel free to post. This is, like I say, an area where we'll put up some updates of things that are going on just for the CarpFix members. It's just another little addition. But what was the actual? What were we trying to? Where we're going to put the giveaway codes, wasn't it? But that is so basically on the community page. We'll put them on there, and via email is the best way to see them. So at the moment we've only got 3 at the moment, but they. That like Johnson Ross, over 20,000 products, you can get 10% off the majority. They've got well over 20,000, but there's 20. They've got like 28,000, but you can't get a discount on all of them just because of some of the margins and things. Yeah. But the majority you can. Think Food, we use it on our own filming. It's really good quality. The meat, is like butcher grade,
and it's convenient.
Yeah. So you can get 10% off at the moment. Scott Lloyd, who runs it, he's working off fairly minimal margins, so it might drop to 5% on the odd month. But we'll try and keep it as high as possible. Yeah. And then handcraft hook baits are the ones that we're giving away tonight. We've got 10% off for any of those, so you can, like I say, go on the emails. There's all the links and stuff there, and you can, just get involved.
Yeah.
So
I'm going to talk a little bit about the weather quickly. The weather is super mild at the moment. I would say we've not had an awful winter, but in recent years we've been blessed through December certainly, with lots of double figure days. I remember when I've been previously writing my last book, that the weather through the winters in December has been pretty good. We've had really mild temperatures, whereas this year through December, January, we've had we've not frozen lakes and snow, not that bad, but we've not been blessed with the lovely mild double figure days, the overcast and the big winds that really stir the fish up. Whereas in the last 2 weeks we've had a little bit of that, and we're right in the middle of it now. So if you are thinking about going fishing, or dusting off your gear, now would be a great time. I did myself, it was a week or so ago now, a friend of mine had caught 2 30s and a 20 from Berners Hall, and I said to Scott, I'm going to go to my local day ticket, Blasford Hill. It's where I always turn to when the weather's really cold, somewhere where no matter what the weather, where it's snow on the ground, you've got a really good chance of catching a 20. And then the information about Berners sort of come up on the horizon, and I was hoping in a few nights to catch 1 or 2. We ended up catching 22. So an incredible session. I think 5 or 6. I think 6 30s. I can't be. I'm not going to. Yes, I think 6 30-pounders and a 40-pounder. At one point, I had 3 30s on the spin, and that film will be a little way off yet. But
I'm just actually trying to find it now and see when we're going to put it out.
In my mind, before I went for this trip, I'd had no inclination that what happened was even remotely possible. I knew there's a big head of fish in Berners, 600-700 fish. I knew there's a massive head of 30s. I knew there's a good head of 40s. But when I was thinking about that, I was just thinking, well, if I could nick 1 or 2 of them, that would get a nice film for the winter. That would be a blinder. But from the get go, it was just take central, like double takes, all sorts of things. So that's one to look out for. We're actually going to France tomorrow, me and Scott. I won't say where.
Don't say no more.
I won't say where we're going, but a lot of the French commercial venues are deserted in the winter. Everyone books their summer holidays on them. And in the winter they can be empty, and rightly so. We know carp fishing's more difficult in the winter, and you're going to stack the odds in your favour. You go in May or September, obviously, but with the mild weather that we've got, we're going to a lake that's got lots of big fish, and buoyed by the confidence of what's just happened at Berners Hall. I've got the buzz. I've had a little bit of a layoff.
Taster.
Yeah, I've had a little bit of a layoff. I was too busy packing books through December and January. Really, January had a bit of a layoff. Dusted my gear off in February. Had this session, and now I'm like, I'm ready. I'm ready to go, Scott. I'm salivating.
Shall we do some questions?
Yeah, let's do some questions. Stop talking about ourselves.
Yeah. Right. Timothy Robinson has asked watercraft and location. When turning up to a lake in the winter, what's the best signs to find carp, and what action to take if there isn't any?
Finding carp jumping in the winter, like in all of the quarter films, you just say, we turn up at dawn, and it's a great time to see fish jumping. And that is true, but not so much in the winter. In the winter, when it's bleak and cold, you're unlikely to see fish jumping. You're going to base a lot of your location on other things. Previous experience of that venue, features that you think might well hold carp. Snags are this time of year. We're coming out of winter. Anywhere that catches the sun, some sanctuary where they can sit in the sun. Reed beds, coming into March are really good. They can be really good. But the truth is, if you haven't seen anything and you are guessing, then I would say the fish are not moving a lot at this time of year. They're not swimming around the lake doing laps. Generally, it is possible, but I would tend to I'd move about. Because the fish, I sort of always think that they're pretty tightly balled in the winter. And if you're sitting in a swim, nothing's happening, no indication on the rods, then, a change is as good as the rest. So a little, move around, try the obvious features, give it a few hours, even if it means doing a night in one swim or moving onto it like a bank that's kissed by the sun in the morning, move around. And when you start to get indications, like I did at Berners, I got a few liners before I started catching. Once you find that pod, it is possible to have some good results.
Cool, nice. Tom Young has asked, "Hi Darrell, what's best to fish with, slack lines or tight lines?"
Yeah, we've had this question many times, and the truth is, there's no exact. I can't say slack line's best, tight line's best. They've all got their place in on the same lake on different days. For example, if you get on Berners recently, I fished with absolute bowstrings, and the reason I fished with absolute bowstrings is because when I paid off the line, it was so windy, the undertow was taking the line out of position. So as you feed the line out, it just gets tight again. As you feed the line out, it just gets tight again. So in that situation, there's zero benefit to slackening your lines off because it just can't be done. But if you're fishing 10 yards out on a lake that's got a perfect line lay into it, then you don't need to be fishing with a tight line pointing from your rod tip down to the lead. So if you think you can slacken your line off and get it down out of the way, and bite indication isn't paramount, like the most important thing, then slack lines are an advantage, definitely. But it's always about practicality. You have to think about that first. Can I do it? Should I do it? Is it an edge? Is it going to hinder me? So, yeah, that's what I'm going to say.
Cool. To that. Liam Banks has asked, Darrell, what is it about the full moon which makes fishing better?
Well, I wouldn't actually say that is definitely true. We talk. Everyone talks about moon phases now. It's like it's out there. Everyone's got their opinion on the moon phases. Derek, for example, he's not having it that full moon is a good thing. He doesn't think a full moon is a good thing, and I don't think a full moon is the best time to haul necessarily. I do think it's a good time for a big one, and if you, so I remember Christopher Paschmans from Germany. Is a very well-respected angler in Germany. Caught loads and loads and loads of big fish. He asked, he said to me, "What is it, Darrell? He said a good angler should always know why. And that's is a very good point. I don't know why. I can't tell you why, but sometimes when you experience something enough times, it's as long as you don't need to know why. And I've caught too many big fish on the exact night of the full moon. Yeah, like I said, I don't think it's necessarily the best time to catch a bag full, but I do think it's a good time, particularly the autumn. You know, I think the spring full moons are slightly different, and the summer ones. But I think once you like August, September, October, November, December, January, like I think those full moons in the right conditions are very, very important for big uns.
Cool. Okay. Ben Barron has asked, have you fished the washing line method much? Is there a maximum distance you can use it?
It's not a method that I have fished a lot, mainly because I've not fished the venues where you can get... I remember trying it once at Essex Manor, and I was trying it to a spot that was about 80, 90 yards away, over like near to some lilies, and a swan flew through my line, and the line got pulled through the elastic band that was onto the pole on the far bank, and the rig was up there waggling around, and the swan was all tangled in my line. But it is if you say you're fishing on the canal, and you want to fish further away from just in front of you, you know, but you don't want to have loads of line in the water to get the weed caught on it, and to allow the fish to, the more line in the water, the more chance there are fish of bumping into it. So, for example, on a canal, you could have your line running to a bank stick and then down into the water, and then one in front of you, for example. And it's a much better way of doing things. So, yes, the washing line is a brilliant method, but in the right situation. It's not ideal when you're cutting across the lake, especially a big lake. You've got so much chance of a bird flying into it. It's going to be more. It can be more hassle than it's worth. But down the edges of canals, for example, brilliant tactic.
Cool.
Let's give away a tub of pop-ups for that.
Oh, now you're testing me because I just refreshed.
Sorry.
If you, I can't even remember it. I'll try and find it. But
okay.
if you did that question, then yeah, let me know. Okay, let me just let's have a little look. Okay, Dave has asked Darrell, how much importance do you put on camouflaging the end tackle?
Not that much. I think it's relatively important, but like, for example, you can have like a translucent green, brown, beige, you know, all three of them are going to be fine in 90% of situations. You know, certain ones might work slightly better, and that's why they're there. But I don't think you want to get your head caught up in it too much. You know, I think a lot of the time you could have a bright yellow lead on there, and they'd come in to see what that was. You know, and not necessarily be scared of it because they've got no reason to know what it is. So yeah, I wouldn't get your head too caught up in camouflaging your end tackle. You know, if you're fishing the same venue regularly, then there's definitely no harm in mirror it, like making it as good, doing the best job you can of camouflaging it. But I think a lot of the time your end tackle is on the bottom. You know, there's sticks, bits of debris, all sorts of things down there, and I wouldn't get your head caught up in it too much.
Ben Barron apparently is the one that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jack Reed.
Can we give this guy set up to have a pop-up?
Oh, no, you're testing. No, we got it. Dave B.
So we've got two people there.
Yeah, Dave B. Oh, okay. Let's have a little look. Caitlin, of all your trips to France, which one is the most memorable?
Probably one when my car got caught on fire. You know, it's not. It's not every time you go to France that you get your car set on fire.
Orient.
So, I've told the story a lot of times on podcasts and the big carp story and stuff. But you know, it was a boyhood dream to go to Orient, do the Champagne region mud beach special. You know, I'd read about it as a kid, wanted to do it for a long time. I was always massively intimidated by the lakes. Always dreamt that one day I'd bump into some big lake specialist and they'd take me under their wing. And for years I put it out there to people. No one really seemed to have the same dream. No one wanted to sit in the mud for 5 or 6 weeks. And that session, you know, was for the fish that I caught, for what I experienced, definitely the most memorable.
Cool. Right. Dan Lawson, what is your view on dyed lakes in regards to hook bait colours? Do you think certain colours work better than others? I guess he means...
Yeah, the blue dye and stuff. To to be honest, I have fished lakes with blue dye in, but I haven't ever thought about certain hook baits working in that situation. I can't think of a situation where I found that certain colours don't work. I don't tend to mess around too much. Use the white, the yellow, and the pink. Generally, those three are my main go-tos. But no, I can't say that I've ever noticed. Anything.
Is there any? So Neil Cornwell has asked: is there any flavours or additives you prefer in the colder months?
I've done years and years ago when I used to make my own bait more so. I've done very well fishing CarpFix and Frutella. I used to make my own essential opal boilies, and I caught quite a few fish on that combination, CarpFix and Frutella. From the Corda Goose, I know the isotonic. The isotonic reminds me quite similar to the old Solex Blend 12, which has got a bit of a proven track record in the cold weather. So that would definitely be a good one. But in more recent times, I've just tended to use Cell, which isn't really a flavour. Cell is Cell, and Cell is Cell's a strange bait. It doesn't smell like a carp. What I imagine a good carp bait to smell like. It almost smells like a suntan lotion. It's got this weird sort of coconutty sort of strange aroma. But yeah, I've caught in very, very cold conditions on that, and I've caught over quite a lot of bait in the cold weather, which a lot of people say the fish don't eat much, and I would generally agree with that as well in the winter. But I've had them on certain lakes. I've had them troughing Cell in the cold.
Yeah. Brandon Epton has asked, I've recently moved over to carp fishing from match fishing. What advice would you give to a new carp angler?
What advice?
Bearing in mind he's already got a bit of match fishing experience. Yeah. Is there anything that you could maybe bring from match fishing into carp fishing?
A lot of the same things that separate a good match angler from... not separate, but are the same, from one discipline to the other, is attention to detail, accuracy, being able to consistently put the rod on a good spot, and not just that'll do. All the best anglers are very meticulous with their end tackle, with their approach, with their location. Making sure the cast's in the right spot. The biggest difference is that on most commercial venues, when you're fishing for like match style, they're full of fish, and the fish, put some bait in, they come to you. And when you're carp fishing, the reason they're bigger because there's generally less of them in the lake looking for them. So the main advice I would give you is look for the fish before you start, and if you can't find any fish, which you should really make the effort to try and find them first. But if you can't find them, look for the obvious features that you think might hold them.
Yeah, cool. A few people asking about the Orient. Is there any plans to go to the Orient?
Maybe this year at some point. I will. At the moment, I've got a lot of plans. A lot of dates being
busy schedule.
Busy schedule. Juggling Corda and CarpFix. But we're off to Spain. I'm off to Spain with Corda in March, and I'm off to Spain with CarpFix as well during March. So obviously we're in February now. We're going to France this week, tomorrow.
Busy. We've got a lot of good shoots coming up. Hopefully we can deliver the films.
Well, hopefully I'll put the meat on the deck.
Yeah.
It's
all right for me. I'll just stand there with a camera and press record.
Yeah.
The real pressure is on you catching the fish.
Yeah. To be fair, we've so far, touch wood.
Yeah.
Touch wood. we've been very, very successful. We have had one failed shoot. After the Farlow shoot, we failed at Crown Country Park, which is a very, very deep lake. We had to struggle up there, but we were trying to get a second film. Whereas other than that, we've been pretty blessed, really.
Andreas has asked, did you pick the France trip from tomorrow for tomorrow? Because we're going into the full moon this week. I think it was just more our diaries.
Do you know what? I didn't even saw it. If that's true, then I'll give him a toe pop up. But no, the truth is, what happened is we were supposed to go to Blasford, ended up going to Berners, caught a load of fish, and then it was like we're thinking we're going to go to a canal in France. We're thinking that the canal and the boats will keep the fish moving around. Still might. But I don't know. Scotty made a few calls. and then there was a chance to go where we're going. And the reason no one else is there is because it's not the best time. But at the same time, I like it to be a bit spicy, you know. And as long as no one else is in the way, I'm happy to suffer. Do you know what I mean? Because I'm being my element hunting. So yeah, we're aiming high for the time.
Very high,
very very high.
But I said we've got to live, you know,
edge.
Life on the edge.
Hopefully that make better content. You know, a lot of the like when you go filming, it's like you know you need to catch, and you sort of
what you're going in. You know what you're facing. Like we don't know what we're facing in terms of what the potential is. We could go there and blank. We could go there, catch one small fish, or we could.
But the temptation at this time of year is to go to a UK day ticket lake, isn't it?
Yeah.
I fancy something a bit.
Well, we've just been there, like you said, haven't we? So, yeah. But we want to give obviously, varied stuff. So it's a bit of a challenge for you. It's new water for you, so it's good. Right, let's have a little look on here. Moved over from match fishing,
Is it the full moon this week?
I don't know.
I'm just going to have a little look.
Lee Piddington.
Lee Piddington? I went to school with him.
Did you? Hi, Darrell and Scott. Do you use Kamakuras in PVA bags or out of the packet? There could be two people called...
Could call Lee Piddington. Is it Lee Piddington that I went to school with? He might come back and say.
If he's still watching.
So the question was, do I use Kamakuras?
In PVA bags or out of the packet?
I use Kamakuras in PVA bags or out of the packet. Even Kamakuras, I always check the points, you know, like I always have a little check. Sometimes I give them a little brush with my jag stones, you know, sometimes. But yeah, I do fish them in PVA bags. But if you're asking me that because you're worried about them getting, I'm guessing you're asking because you're worried about them getting burred by the hard pellets in the bag. If you watch, we done a winter film where we went to Churchgate and Southend Priory Park, didn't we? And I used PVA bags in that film, and I've done a PVA bag techers, haven't I?
Yeah.
You'll see if you watch those videos that I tend to put boilercrumb or breadcrumb or something really soft at the beginning to cover that hook point, you know, to protect it before I start adding in the chunkier pellets, the harder pellets that could potentially damage the hook point, you know. So I would use Kamakuras, and if you're asking for that reason, then that is a valid point, you know. No pun intended. But it is a valid point. You could easily damage a Kamakura if you put loads of hard pellets in there and start giving it that.
They are very, very fine.
They're fragile, aren't they? But they are what they are.
Yeah. Okay. George Reed is asked, how can you tell how far the fish out? How far the fish are out when getting liners? Any tips for this would be great, as I can't get my head around it.
Well, there is no hard and fast way. You know, the other day I was in a Blasford Hill fishery, done 24 hours on there. I normally catch them really, really tight to the island, and I was fishing 10 and a quarter wraps, something like that. And from the get-go, as soon as my rods were in, my bobbins going. Brr, 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 I thought, all right, I'm on them, and I waited and waited and waited. And I didn't get a take. So before I went to bed, I reeled in and cast 8 wraps. And I didn't get any liners through the night and didn't catch anything either. So by the time when I woke up in the morning, I'm thinking, well, I was getting liners at 10 wraps. I didn't get liners at 8 wraps. I'm going to go out at 9. So I woke up first light, cast out 9 wraps, and I had 3 takes an hour, then the fish left. So that's one way of doing it, you know, trial and error. Anything else is guessing. You know, that's the truth.
Richard Beals, how do you set up your long range marker setup? I seem to suffer from tangles where the float tangles around the braid or Corda lead tail.
Yeah, I don't use the lead tail.
Yeah, I always trap the lead before impact as well. So.
Yeah, I find those lead tails a bit problematic at times. You know, you wouldn't be the first person to say that they're having trouble to get the marker float to come up.
They get stuck in it, don't they?
Well, they spin.
Yeah,
they spin in flight, and then you get, once you've got like that figure of 8 sort of thing going on, the line doesn't travel through the eye as nicely.
Yeah.
So in that situation, I tend to just fish directly through the lead. So I go through the swivel on top of the lead, and I have a couple of beads, or a really good thing is it's called a buffer bead. A buffer bead goes on the eye of the swivel for the mark flow, and the lead butts up against that.
They come with the kits, don't they? Usually, it's just a big bead, isn't it?
Yeah,
but it's slightly different shape, no, or not?
Yeah, it's not round.
Yeah, it's like tapered almost, isn't it? Not tapered, but
it's round at the end of the lead butts up against, but the other end's open where the swivel goes in.
Yeah,
it's sort of, I don't know, it's like half-inch long, but they're really good. But yeah, I would get rid of the tail and try it direct.
Yeah, cool. Mickey Cork has asked. He's over at the Essex Manor at the moment. Manor. Any tips apart from go home?
No. Like, I think the Essex Manor has got all of the. It's got potential to be a good winter water. As in, it's a small lake with nowhere for the fish to hide. Nowhere to hide. Like, you just got to get your location right. One show could be the difference. I've only fished it. I've done 1 year on there. I fished from April through to November and then never went back. So I never actually fished it at this time of year. I fished April to November. But I know a lot of the fish got caught on zigs in April. I think March. But yeah, I would be trying. There's a swim called the 18 and the rope. The middle zone between those two swims. Out there with zigs would be a great starting point. If you're going to do 1 or 2 nights there, and then if nothing happened, then you could move down and fish like the other side of the step swim, which is the garden and the slope. They're the 2 swims out there. They're sort of almost like bowl areas of the lake that quite often I could just imagine the fish sitting out there. So yeah, I'd mess around with zigs out there. But yeah, you're there. You need to read it and see, find the depth they're at. But there's definitely a chance. There's a lot of big fish in there. And if you're doing it exactly right, there's a chance.
We'll give him a tub of pop-ups to try on the Essex Manor.
Yeah.
Mickey will send you some.
Yeah.
How many are we giving away?
I think we've done 4
We've
tubs.
done 4, yeah. Frozen boilies or shelf life?
I think let's give a tub of pop-ups away to this guy.
Well, he's already got one.
Has he got one?
We'll,
all right.
We'll spread the load.
Spread the load. Sorry, you can't have 2. Scott's ruled.
Yeah. We've got to share it.
If you'd just asked me that years ago, I'd have said frozen all the way. But a lot of the bait manufacturers, when you read what they're saying these days, the ready-mades are almost the same bait as the fresh ones, the frozen ones, but with a bit of preservative in. And some people say the fish can tell the preservative and all that, but I think tech's up high enough now. I think the shelf lives are convenient for a lot of people, and the difference, probably doesn't make any difference. So just whatever you're most confident with.
Yeah. Adam Walsh, wafters or pop-ups in the spring?
I think it depends on the venue. Pop-ups are being used a lot in the UK. We've had in the last decade or so, it's been stiff hinge rigs, chod rigs, Ronnie rigs. It's everything's pop up, and pressured fish. They must ignore these pop-ups at the time. Do drive-bys. I've seen it. When I fished the Essex Manor, I watched a fish called the Northern Linear was in there feeding on boilie crumb, come up to my pop-up and swerve it. But that was the rig that was doing it. And the reason the pop-ups work so well is because it's always there. For all the ignoring that happens, eventually one just comes in and mows it up, and it's a very efficient hooker. But I would say pop-ups are brilliant at their best in the spring. But if you're fishing small, intimate water that's seeing immense amounts of pressure, then I think a bright wafter is probably an advantage, keeping it close to the bottom, especially if the fish have been murdered on not murdered, but been hammered on pop-ups, then there's definitely an edge to be had.
Cool. Steve Middleton has asked, any tips for fishing French lakes, i.e. the Road Lake Gigantica, and what sort of bait would you fish with this month, i.e. boilie sweet corn pellets? Have you fished the Road Lake?
I have fished it a couple of times. Yes, long time ago, like long time ago.
Like when it first kind of
Yeah, when it first opened. I don't like to feed heavy food items, or certainly not a lot of them in this time of year. You know, I don't think you'll be in many situations where you need more than 30 boilies around. If you're fishing boilies, more than 30 boilies at this time of year to catch. Probably less. You know, 5, 10, 15 is enough boilies if that's what you're catching on. But one of my very favourite baits is sweet corn. You know, sweet corn is absolutely it's devastating. It really is. And if there isn't too many nuisance fish, not too many roach, not too many bream, not too many tench, and I don't think there is in Road Lake, I don't think you'd go far wrong with 5 key yellow out there. You know, it's just like carp for some reason love glowing spots, and you can make your own glowing spot with 5 key yellow.
It's very true.
Yeah.
Right, let's have a little look, see if we find a question. Best tactic for wary fish in deep silt from Chris Lines.
Yeah, it's probably my least comfortable topic, fishing in deep silt. You know, I've not done a lot of it with any. I've never fished anywhere where fishing in soft bottom has been the best. You know, it's not ideal. But there's an estate lake in Essex, very small one, that's regarded by all the people that I know that fished it as very tricky. It's days only. The fish are swimming over your rigs all day, ignoring them. And when I finally did catch them, I caught them on braided hook links and 18mm wafters. I think a slow sinking bait on a soft, supple hook link with a very sharp hook. Obviously, the lead, you can get away on when you're fishing in silt. The fish, first of all, have soft mouths, and secondly, the leads penetrate the bottom. So there's no need to fish heavy leads for hooking potential. Little leads get stuck in the bottom. They don't sink too deep, but so you get the bolt effect of a bigger lead without using one, but at the same time that the little lead isn't sinking and dragging the bait out of sight. So slow, not pop-ups generally in silt I fish wafters, generally 18 millers I've done best on fishing with braided hook links.
You think if you use, like, on a really heavily silty lake, if you use a really heavy lead, depending on what rig you use, it could just all go under?
Yes. Yeah, I remember seeing a video of, I can't remember who the angler was, but it's one of those ones in Carpology where Rob Hughes swam out to see what someone's rig looked like.
Oh, right, okay, yeah.
So I think it might have been Mark Pictures, I can't remember.
Right.
But they basically said they'd found a hard spot in the silt and they were going to chuck a solid bag on it.
Right.
And when Rob swam out there was a crater in the bottom where the bag had gone in. Just like, the bag was gone, you know.
Really?
Like, literally, there was just like...
Nothing left?
There was a hole where the bag had just punctured the silt. So his line just disappeared
Straight
into a hole.
down.
It looked like a golf hole, you know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, just like...
Yeah.
Not you'd think it'd be sitting there all on show on top of the silt, but it was gone. It was
Straight in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, so don't use too heavy leads or...
Yeah, I wouldn't fancy solid bags.
Yeah.
No, on soft silt, no.
Yeah. Let's have a little look. Yeah. Keep going up and down. Where would you recommend to go in Europe to catch my first 60? Caught a few big ones here in the UK. Never been overseas fishing. Not too sure where to go. That's from Daniel Scrange.
Best chance of a 60. Twas Eels could be, if you've watched the Corda Thinking Tackle on Demand, there's a lake called Twas Eels. It's much like the lake we went to, La Prune. You book your swim prior to going, and Twas Eels is absolutely filled with hippos, isn't it? There's loads of 60s in there.
Yeah.
Telliets was the other one.
I mean, even like Abbey Lakes, it's got lots of lakes there.
Yeah.
They've all got big fish in.
Gigantica's got a lot of 60s in it.
Yeah.
Creek Lake's got a lot of 60s in it. Yeah, you're right.
There's a lot of lakes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a starter.
Gigantica, Creek,
Road
Lake has got some 60s.
Yeah, not
in
loads.
It, not loads. But if you specifically want to catch really big ones, I think, Free Eels or Creek Lakes. I think they'd be a very good bet for a £60.
Yeah, Free Eels is on the Carpasons ticket. So
if
you type in three and then eels,
and I think there's a lot of 60s in Carpasons as well. Actually, I know we
There's
did
a lot of
actually. 60s in Carpasons.
in the Prune.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think there
there's
is.
some big fish in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Jason Struck. Darrell, why do some lakes fish at night and others don't?
Some lakes are fish at night at certain times of year, and in the day at certain times of year, and other lakes just for whatever reason are just night venues. I wouldn't. Again, it's something that I could put a scientific reason behind or some evidence backed theory. Whereas I would just say use it to your benefit. You know, if you know what time the fish are feeding, then use that to make sure you're getting your rods out at not at feeding times. You know, fishing at making sure your rods are in position when you expect takes, etc. But yeah, why I don't know. I would say that spring and summer, a lot of the time, first light, the first few hours of morning are the best time, and I would say in the autumn and winter, going into dark and in the night are the best time. So yeah, that's what I'd say.
Cool. Neil Cornwell has asked, is there any bait flavours that you recommend? Oh no, we've done that one in the colder months. We've done that one. Okay, let me find a new one. How many have we given away so far?
About 4 or 5.
Yeah. Let me just go back.
If there's 12 there, if we give away another 5, I'll keep a couple.
We got. Barry Jarvis. I'm considering a tiger nut approach on my syndicate, which is solid with crays and nuisance fish, but only a few bream. There's approximately 250 fish in about 18 acres with lots of islands and features with depths to around 9 foot. Would you use tigers all year? Any tips such as pre-baiting quantities, etc.?
Yeah, I would definitely. You know, if you've got bream present, tigers. You can catch bream on tigers, but it's certainly not something that they're going to go wild on. Preparation-wise, I have talked about this before, but I tend to not. People say you've got to soak them for 24 hours and then boil them for half an hour, whereas I do it the other way round. I've just put them in the Burko, boil them for half an hour, and then leave them for 24 hours. And you'll see that. What you've got to make sure is that they never suck on all the water and go dry. You want to make sure that when you go to use them, that they're fully expanded. But so I boil first and then soak for 24 hours after, and then freeze them if I want to keep them, or then use them. And I'm whether they're in the first few days, the water's very thin, and then as the time goes on up to a week, you know, it gets more gloopy. I've caught in whatever state, you know, they are in. You know, they work. With regards to pre-baiting. Would you say a couple of hundred fish in there?
250, I think.
Yeah, I don't think you need loads, and you know, a lot of people would turn their nose up if you said you're filling in a lake with tigers. But you know, baiting a spot with the equivalent of like 15, 20 spoms, you know, a couple of few times a week. I would say whatever lake you're fishing, I try and break it down into zones. Pick 2 or 3 zones and pick your favourite spot or a spot that you think you can get back on regularly within that zone, and twice a week approach, you know, with a kilo or 2, little and often. It's pre-baiting's more about consistency than anything else.
Cool. Dan, I've given Barry Jarvis a tub of pop-ups.
Yeah. How many? Is that 6?
2, 4. No, it's 5.
That's 5.
Yeah.
Cool, we've got 7 left.
Yeah, we've got loads. We've got lots of questions though.
Good.
Let's have a little look. Dan Lear has asked, you've accomplished a lot in your fishing career and fished a lot of waters. Is it solely the fish that keep you motivated, or does the challenge of the water motivate you, I guess he was going to say?
I think the bottom line is I am an angler. You know, that's like, it's ingrained in me. That's who I am. It's what I do. So I'm motivated by that anyway. But there are levels of motivation beyond that. You know, sometimes, you know, I'm going to make a film on the Runs water, and I don't get the same buzz as, say, when, for example, we were going to Wazing to film those 2 films in the spring. You know, it's there's levels to it. You know, sometimes, you know, at Welly, for example, where I was getting into the routine, fishing 3 nights every week, where it's just all my brain thinks about. So yeah, I love all forms of fishing, but sometimes it's extra.
What about like when you and we're going away tomorrow?
Yeah.
For a period of time,
Yeah.
and you can plan for that trip. Is that the same? Like, how are you already motivated for that, or do you kind of
Yeah, I'm
get motivated when you get there and kind of get going? And
well, yeah. So
the preparation.
We've known them for going there for weeks, so I've spent the last 3 days getting my kit ready.
Yeah.
You know, if I'd been told a day before, I could have probably done it in a day.
Yeah.
But you know, I've been thinking about bait. I've been soaking this and spooling up that and making sure I've got that just in case this could happen. You know, they're the sort of things. You know, like I'm prepping, but I'm prepping for a one-off trip because I don't know what it's going to be like. Once the real thing that really gets me is when I fish the same lake time and time again, because I'm building on the information and I'm zoning in on what's happening, and that's when I find obviously I'm doing it the best. The more information, you know, and the more time you spend in the water, the better it gets.
So, like, compared to, like, say, Wazing,
yeah,
you can prepare for each trip, and as things change, you can kind of bring you can bring less, but and fine tune it.
Yeah.
But for, like, so going to somewhere in France that you've never fished before, like, what's the difference in terms of preparation? Are you just taking kind of as much stuff as you can, or are you going? Are you doing a lot of research and stuff like that?
No. Well, you say that actually. you know why? So I can't say, can I? No, I can't because it'll be too much away.
Yeah.
But, I've been doing a bit of research because I don't know, but know a lot about the venue we're going to. But less said better.
Right. Okay. But you do a lot of preparation.
Yeah, I do a lot of preparation, you know, and that I'm at my happiest when I know exactly what I want to do, and I've got everything out of the way that I don't need, you know.
Yeah,
so
when you're at the lake,
total focus. It's like I only bring this because I only need this, you know. The less there is to clutter your mind, the better you'll fish.
Yeah, because you could almost make you pick it up and want to use it potentially.
Yeah, just I operate best with the least clutter, you know. Once I've fine-tuned it, you know, like a well-oiled machine.
Yeah. Okay, let's have a little look. Jack Heffer, what's your most memorable and most significant capture, and why?
You know, if for example we look back on the Big Carp story, talking about Yateley, the capture of my first 40, it's what it meant at the time. You know. Now I'm an experienced, confident angler. Almost expect to catch, you know, a little bit, you know, because I've been in the situations enough time to know when it's going to happen and when it should happen, etc. But yeah, at Yateley, I was very naive, very young, didn't quite have a grasp of if I was doing it right or not. You know, I'd caught well from local venues, etc. But to catch your first 40 at 21 years old, fishing at Yateley Car Park with Terry Hearn in the next swim. I can. Even now, it's like feels like yesterday. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Nick Wells, what's your favourite lead arrangement hook link material when dropping from a bait boat?
Ooh, I quite like dropping from a bait boat with a helicopter rig. I have used lead clips in bait boats, but one of the biggest things that obviously I've only started dropping rigs from bait boats in the last couple of years, and it's not something that I'd done before and what I've been learning on the job. And one of the most common mistakes that people make with a bait boat when you're first using it is to take the line really tight and let go of the hopper door when the line's tight. And what happens in that situation is the rig shoots back towards you on the swing back and then leaves the free offerings all fall in a pile. So what I tend to do now is put a foam nugget around the hook, take the rod out onto the clip. The boat's momentum makes the line go really tight, and then it sort of comes back towards you. And once the line goes slack, I even bring the rod like a metre or so closer towards the bait boat, so the line's really slack, and then it falls down vertically, and then suddenly the tension, the surface tension of the water builds up a degree of tension to the lead, and you can feel the lead down without it swinging away. So it sort of free falls, goes tight, and sort of just swings back a little bit, and you get a drop, plus the bait lands around the rig. But yeah, foam nugget, helicopter rig, let the line slacken off a little bit before you open the hopper doors. They're my tips.
Cool. That was Nick Wells.
Give him a-
I'm just giving them away because
give them
'cause
away.
you're not. So I am.
I'm thinking about the questions.
What we'll do is we'll do 10 because you said there's 12. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll do 10 and
Keep
then
one each.
no, we'll give one each to the Delkin winners
Yeah.
as well. Just put them
Okay.
in the box.
Okay.
So we've got
One each to the Delkin winners. Nice
2,
idea.
4, 6. Yeah, we've still got 4 to do. So
Okay.
right. So Glenn Bram. Apologies if I pronounce your surname incorrectly. I've been on a campaign throughout winter with no success. I've tried multiple methods, but still no joy. What is your go-to method for winter?
Depending on the venue, if the water is very clear, single hook baits and zigs tend to score for me well on clear venues. If the water's got a bit of colour to it, PVA bags and maggots. They're the sort of two things. Sweet corn, again, sweet corn's a good one in clear water for me. But again, it's very, very dependent. I've caught them on a whole manner of different. Without knowing your venue, it's hard to give you solid advice. I'd need quite a bit more information.
Okay. John Wallace, I fished burners late last year and heard they had dyed the water. I literally couldn't find any weed. Do you think this has an effect on the fishing, i.e. does your bait become the spot?
On lakes that have got no weed?
I guess so,
Yeah, I think so. For example, Gigantica years and years ago used to be like a desert out there. I remember I cast out like 130 yards and reeled in with my lead along the bottom with a hook on, and literally I come back in with a piece of mud on the barb of the hook, and that was it. Just the tiniest little fleck behind the point. But yes, on these lakes that are very barren, flat, and especially burners, the irrigation reservoir, and with 600-700 carp in, they're not coming on you in 3s and 4s. It is possible that you could have a shoal of 50 to 300 carp come on you. That is a real thing. It's not a big lake, loads of fish. Your bait is your feature. That's the sort of lake where the sort of 3 on a spot, spommed up well, is at its absolute best. When you fish 3 rods on a zone,
just home in on it.
Yeah, because when you're spomming over here, spomming over there, if you're concentrating your feed in the right zone, like the zone where they are, once they drop, and as soon as those fish start dropping and tails start waving like that, that is just like all of the fish start dropping. And when they all start dropping like that, it doesn't take long before
and
the
I think obviously there's a right time of year to be doing that, but if you do that and stay on the spot,
they'll find it.
If you're there for a decent amount of time,
they
will come to it. So don't, like what Derek was saying in the aquarium, not the aquarium, the public water film. He's basically saying don't keep changing your spots. He's putting bait out.
Yeah,
he knows that they will come at some point because he was there for a week. I know you're not going for a week all the time.
Going back to burners, I would say, like, having fished it a couple of times now, my sort of interpretation of what's good advice to fish there. If you treat burners as 3 lakes, as in 2 ends, 2 bowls, and then the passing area which is behind the island. So if you're fishing in either of the bowls, if you're fishing in the centre of those 2 bowls, you are not going to be far away from fish if they're at that end of the lake. So aim for the middle of the 2 bowls, or fishing in the middle behind the island. You're going to fish behind the island. You're fishing for passing fish, but in those 2 bowls, if you're fishing in the middle of those 2 bowls and the fish are at that end, you're going to be on blackness.
Yeah. Very good advice. That. Let's give old Andrew. That was that was John, wasn't it? John Wallace.
Yeah.
We've got a question about canals. Let's have a little look, shall we? When fishing, this is Andrew Norris. When fishing canals, do you prefer to use boilies or would you start with particles, i.e. tiger nuts? Keep up the good work.
I fish tigers a lot, especially abroad. I was fishing on the canal in France with Derek. Found some fish one day, put out a banoffee wafter, caught a 32 pounder after about 20 minutes of the rod being out, but my 18mm wafter was the size of a pea. Now, if I hadn't had that take, I might not have realised that there was Well, I'm not even sure if it's crayfish. I think it's like they have these like little fish that nibble at your bait, like little catfish and stuff like that. So yeah, tigers are often my go-to. You know, very cheap, very. I like the way that they're saturated. Tiger nuts are saturated in their own juice, so when they go in the lake, they're not sucking up the smells of the bottom. Also, like that when the fish start eating them, I'm sure the noise sort of encourages other fish to get on the feed. So yeah, tigers very underused bait. Not I wouldn't say they're the best winter bait out there, but if you're fishing from May to like October time, fishing on canals, you won't go far wrong with tigers. You really won't.
Andrew Norris has got himself a tub as well.
Yeah.
2, 4, 6, 8. Two more. Let's have a little look. Simon Brooks. Evening, guys. What is your go-to spod mix during the colder months? And what are your views on the fish meal baits in winter?
Okay, so a good, very easy, basic spod mix for winter would be either 1 part maggot, 1 part hemp, 1 part boilie crumb. That's a good one. Or 1 part corn, 1 part boilie crumb, 1 part hemp. You know, they're another one, depending if you allow maggots, you know. But, you know, boilie crumb, hemp, maggot, corn. I probably wouldn't use all 4 together, but a combination of those, 3 of those 4 would be good.
Cool.
What was the other? That was fish meal boilies in winter.
Oh yeah, fish meal.
Yeah, people say, and lots have been written about it over the years, that oily fish meals don't work in the winter. There's definitely an element of the thick oil, fish oil, doesn't leak through the water as well in the colder weather. But I've also fished with extremely high oil salmon pellets in the winter before, where the fish aren't caught. So, you know, the fish will still eat them.
Cool. I'm going to give him one as well. Simon Brooks, got yourself a tub of pop-ups. Kieran Young, just started a new syndicate. It's renowned for no clear spots, inch or 2 of soft silt on the bottom. How would you approach it?
Inch or 2 of soft silt. You know, I did mention earlier about I tend to fish 18mm wafters on braided hook links, like fairly long, like 8-10 inch braided hook links with a wafter in silty conditions. But you know, you won't go far wrong with a chod rig. You know, if the fish in that lake are prepared to eat pop-ups, then a chod rig fished on top of the silt, or a stiff hinge, or a Ronnie rig. You know, that rigs on a helicopter rig with a beacon come up, but the rig can slide up the line. You know, could definitely score for you. But yeah, generally when I fish silty lakes, I've done personally better on wafters with braided hook links.
Cool. James Burke, starting on a 50-acre reservoir. How would you pre-bait? Not seeing any real signs of fish, would you just keep introducing your bait to establish until they give themselves away or find spots?
Well, my opening gambit is never to pre-bait. That pre-baiting comes with having seen something for me and noticed something. So, for example, we're in the winter now. A 50-acre reservoir is never going to be easy. Unless it's absolutely heaving with fish. You know, you're going to start seeing regular signs, I would anticipate, from April onwards. You know, you might see them in March if you get some good weather and there's a few fish in there. But from the middle of April, once you get into May, there are going to be signs. You know, if you're looking in the right places on the right days, you're going to see signs. So my opening line of attack is always to fish minimal bait where I see them jumping to start with. Then once I notice, if I see patterns, as in I start to see on certain conditions they turn up here, on certain conditions they turn up here. I've seen them getting in certain areas. Once I start to see that, that's when I start thinking about pre-baiting. And by then, you know, if I've started to find them in April and into May, that's when the water's warmed up a bit. That's when I start applying a bit of bait. I start applying it to the areas where I'm seeing them, rather than trying to draw them into areas they don't go. Personally, I tend to put it where I think they're going to come back to.
Cool. Neil Roberts have recently joined a lake with average depths of 20 to 30 foot, although has spots in the middle of 20 foot and margins to 12 foot. What's your opinion on deep lake fishing?
But the thing is, if the whole lake's deep, you know, that
Even the margins, like 12 foot.
Yeah, but 12 foot is shallow compared to 30 foot.
Yeah.
You know, it's relative. You know,
Yeah.
You know, you could fish a lake that's got an average depth of 4 foot, and the fish never go in the 12-foot bit until November. You know, no one's ever caught one there until later in the year. Whereas on a lake that's 30 foot, the spring captures might be in 12 foot.
Yeah.
You know, it's relative to that venue.
Yeah.
I would say the fish live there, so never think that they don't use all of it.
Yeah.
But generally, you know, from March, you know, the fish will start to visit the shallow areas, and I would be quite surprised if you told me you were catching them on the bottom in 30 foot in March, April and May. I'd be quite surprised. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I would look to exploit the shallower areas in March, April and May, because they're the areas that are warming first.
Yeah. Lee Curson and booked on Baden Hall in April. Can you remember what time of year it was when you did masterclass on there?
Me and Scotty were there.
Yeah,
that was April.
Yeah, was it? I was going to say March, April.
It was April. I think the last session was May. I think it was like the last 2 weeks of April.
Yeah, because you kept going back, didn't you?
Yeah, it was like and we caught on zigs. We done all right, you know, but it was quite busy, and it was obviously learning as you go. That I think it was on the second session we saw lots of fish around that island, didn't we, on the drone?
Yeah.
So when we came back for the third trip, I knew that they were using it, and we started fishing on the bottom and we caught well, didn't we?
Yeah. Right, okay, let's have a little look.
Who's gonna win the Delkin?
Yeah, we'll do it very soon. We'll do it in
Very
like 5
soon.
minutes.
Okay.
Nathan
Is it the full
Harrington.
moon?
I don't know. Have you not checked?
I'm gonna have a little look.
Everyone talks about watercraft and finding fish. How do you go about fishing lakes where you have to book a specific swim? That's a good question.
Well, you go on form, don't you? You know, like so for example, when we went to La Prunay, we booked swim 3, and then at the last minute we were able to get into swim 2. But the reason that we looked at those swims is because they had a no fishing bank to one side and good access to the middle. So they've got, you know, if you've got a no fishing bank with less angling pressure and access to the middle of the pond where pressure pushes fish, they can be good on those commercial type venues, very good traits to have for a swim. But every venue's different, you know. Casting in the middle on a lake that's 60 foot might be an absolute no-hoper, and it might be all about this little swim with a set of snags to the side of it. So you've got to do your homework, find out where the fish go. But if you can book your swim in advance, then I don't mind that. I personally, I would rather book a swim in advance based on the information I had and suffer when I got there than go to a lake in France, come out of the hat last and go in a duff corner, because that would, you know, when you plan these trips for months in advance, you know, you got the highest hopes of what's possible. To come out, to have your balloon popped at the start of the week like that and be dumped in some pussy little corner would break my heart.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna give that one to Nathan. Last tub.
Okay.
Let's just do a little one from Lee. Is that Darrell and Scott? What's your favourite meal on the bank from Think Food? You haven't had a lot from them, have you?
What was that stir fry thing that I had when we were in?
I don't know what I mean.
Beef and black bean, wasn't it?
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, when we were at the aquarium, Scotty done. I think it was our first. Was it your first shop with them?
I think so. Yeah.
It might have been first or second shop with Think Food. The burgers were really good. Like Scott said,
the burgers are
they
like,
don't shrink, do they?
They're like, it's like putting, you go to Sainsbury's, wherever, and buy a burger, and then put another burger on top of a burger, and you get the size of burgers the Think Food, but they don't shrink. They literally stay.
Which means it's all meat, doesn't it?
They're really good, but the burgers are a good one. One of my favourite meals is bangers and mash.
That's
and
good.
The
mustard thing.
We actually got Scott to change it, because he had 2 sausages and they were like tiny. It was like, come on, so there's a 2 sausage and a 4 sausage option, and you get onion gravy.
That is good.
It's a very easy one to do. The majority of stuff you can do in like a Ridge Monkey, just all in one pan. It's all good. My favourite meal, I've not really tried too many of them, really.
No, that beef and black bean was good. Like, I remember I really enjoyed that. I ate yours.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many on there. Yeah. You know, you can't go wrong, really. There are there are a lot of good ones on there. Yeah, bangers and mash. I can't remember off the top of my head what we've had, but the stir fries are all good. Yeah. Anyway, let's do the draws. Who wants to win some Delkims?
Yes.
Right. Let me plug my phone in.
I'm just going to check the full moon. I keep trying to see if it is the full moon this week. I can't believe I don't know that.
Right,
Oh,
so we're going to do
it
two. Is it? Yeah.
It is Wednesday.
So we're going to do 2 winners for the Delkims.
2 winners.
I just need to open this app. We're going to go on to here. Right, let's see. Right, those of you should be familiar who have seen this before. So it'll just scroll through everyone's name, and I'll just screenshot the two winners. So, good luck, everybody. Let's do it.
Good luck.
Yeah, 2 winners. Here we go. Steve Hatfield.
Steve Hatfield, you just won yourself 3 Delkims and a receiver.
There we go. First winner. And then let's go.
And a tub of pop-ups.
And a tub of pop-ups, yeah.
Excuse me.
Callum Oswell is the other winner.
Callum Oswell, well done.
There we
Congratulations.
go.
3 buzzers and a receiver.
Yeah, they're
and
the
a tub
two.
of pop-ups.
They're the 2 winners. So Callum Oswell and what was the other name? I've forgotten already. I've got such a bad memory.
It's lucky it's been recorded.
Yeah. Oh no, I've screenshot.
Screenshot.
Steve Hatfield and Callum Oswell.
Yeah.
You both won yourself a set of £550 worth of Delkim TXRDs and a receiver. We are, like Darrell has already said, we're going out filming for a good week. So please bear with us. All of the pop-ups and the Delkims,
They won't be shipped until next week.
we'll ship them out in a week. So if you are watching this, I'll email you anyway. But if you're watching this, anyone that's won the pop-ups, we will ship them out in a week on Monday, basically.
Yeah.
That's the next time we'll.
Fishing.
Yeah, tomorrow early.
4 o'clock.
Yeah. So apologies if we didn't answer your question. We've had so many, and it's hard for me sometimes to kind of just thinking of excuses. But it's difficult to try and sometimes it skips and stuff. But yeah, please bring your questions back to the next one, and we will do our best to answer them. That's it from me.
Okay, should we wrap it up?
Yep.
Okay, well, thank you all for joining us this evening on our CarpFix Live. We'll be back again next month. We don't know what the giveaway is yet. We haven't decided, do we? What next month's giveaway is?
No, but we'll make it on par with some Delkims.
Yeah, we'll get a nice prize for next month. But yeah, thank you for joining us. Thanks for the questions, and we will see you again next month.
See ya.